The vibration against the polished mahogany table was the only warning I got. I was in the middle of explaining the difference between Venetian plaster and standard matte finish to a client whose contract was worth more than my husband made in 3 years. I didn't look down immediately. Professionalism is a muscle, and mine was forged in steel. But when the second vibration came, a long, insistent buzz, I slid the phone onto my lap. The first notification was from the bank, a withdrawal alert, negative $68,000. The second was a text message from Jason, heading to Dubai with Kayla. Thanks for the startup capital. Don't wait up. Haha. That haha. It sat there on the screen, 2 syllables designed to reduce our 12-year marriage to a punchline. He hadn't just left. He had emptied the renovation fund I had been building for 24 months. He had taken the capital for my new studio and turned it into a first-class ticket for his mistress. I didn't gasp. I didn't flip the table. I looked up at my client, offered a calm, practiced smile, and said, "Forgive me, I need a brief moment to handle a logistics issue." I walked to the powder room, locked the door, and stared at my reflection. My hands weren't shaking. My eyes weren't wet. I waited for the tears, for the panic, for the shattering grief that the movies tell you is supposed to happen. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt something else. I felt the click of a lock turning. Before I tell you exactly how I made him regret that haha, drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. I leaned against the cool porcelain of the sink and tapped the banking app on my phone. My heart rate hadn't spiked. If anything, it had slowed down. This is what panic looks like when you have trained yourself to suppress it. It looks like extreme, terrifying clarity. I stared at the negative balance. $68,000. That money was supposed to pay for the contractors starting on my second studio location next week. Jason knew that. He knew exactly what that money was for. He didn't just steal my savings. He tried to sabotage my career. But Jason has always been better at spending money than understanding how it works. One tap revealed the transaction details. A standard ACH transfer. I almost laughed. A wire transfer is instant. A standard transfer takes time to clear. He was so eager to get to the airport, so desperate to fund his Dubai fantasy, that he had clicked the wrong button. The money was in limbo. It was gone from my available balance, yes, but it hadn't landed in his offshore account yet. The bank's fraud department was next. I didn't use the frantic voice of a scorned wife. I used the voice of a CEO dealing with a vendor error. "This is Eleanor Vance," I said when the representative answered. "I am looking at a transfer of $68,000 initiated from a device I do not recognize. I did not authorize this transaction. Flag it." "We can put a hold on that immediately, Mrs. Vance," the agent said. "We will need to open an investigation." "Do it," I said. "And revoke access for the secondary cardholder immediately." Step 1 was complete. He wouldn't get the cash. But I knew Jason. He wouldn't panic over the cash yet. He was banking on his safety net. We had a home equity line of credit on the house, a HELOC. It had a limit of $200,000. Jason viewed that equity as his personal piggy bank. He had undoubtedly planned to live off that credit line while he charmed investors in Dubai. He thought the house was his asset. He forgot that I was the one who handled the refinance last year. I was the primary administrator on the mortgage portal. Switching apps took a microsecond. The mortgage lender's dashboard loaded. There it was. Available credit. $200,000. Jason was probably in the taxi to JFK right now, visualizing the 5-star suite he was going to book, the champagne he was going to order, all on the house's credit. I tapped Manage Limit. I didn't close the account. Closing it would require signatures and paperwork. Instead, I lowered the available withdrawal limit. I typed in the number 0. Confirm. The screen refreshed. Available credit. $0. Just like that, his platinum parachute had turned into a lead anchor. He was flying to one of the most expensive cities on Earth with a frozen bank account and a credit line that wouldn't buy him a bottle of water. I put the phone down. I turned on the faucet and let the freezing cold water run over my wrists for 10 seconds. It's a trick I learned in law school to reset the nervous system. I dried my hands. I reapplied my lipstick, a shade called Power Red. I looked at myself one last time in the mirror. The woman looking back wasn't a victim. She was an executioner. I unlocked the bathroom door and walked back into the showroom. My client, Mrs. Sterling, looked up from the fabric swatches. "Everything all right, dear?" she asked. "Everything is perfectly under control," I said, my voice steady as a surgeon's hand. "Now, regarding the velvet drapes, I think we should go with the midnight blue. It's much more unforgiving." Mrs. Sterling smiled. She had no idea that in the 5 minutes I was gone, I had just dismantled my husband's entire life. And the best part? He wouldn't know until he tried to pay for his first drink. A lot of people ask me how I stayed so calm. They ask how a woman watches her husband blow up their life via text message and doesn't even drop her fabric swatches. They assume I was in shock. They assume I was numb. I wasn't numb. I was just 6 months ahead of him. You see, my marriage didn't end today in a bathroom stall. It ended exactly 182 days ago, on a Tuesday in November. I was standing on a stage accepting the Regional Designer of the Year award. It was the biggest night of my career. I was holding this heavy, beautiful crystal trophy, looking out into the blinding stage lights, searching for Jason's face in the front row. The seat reserved for him was empty. He had texted me 10 minutes earlier, "Stuck in a client crisis. So proud of you, babe. Go get him." I believed him for exactly 5 minutes. Then, I sat down and scrolled through Instagram while the applause died down. And there it was. Not on his feed, but on hers. Kayla, the receptionist at his gym. A boomerang video of 2 margarita glasses clinking at a dive bar across town. In the background, I saw the sleeve of the jacket I had bought him for his birthday. The caption read, "Work hard, play hard." In that moment, I didn't feel heartbroken. I didn't feel rage. I felt something much scarier. I felt the light switch turn off. It's a phenomenon called the moment of death. It's when your brain stops processing a person as a partner and starts processing them as a liability. I looked at that empty chair and I realized Jason wasn't my husband anymore. He was a depreciating asset. And you do not hold on to depreciating assets. You liquidate them. Driving home that night, silence was my only passenger. No confrontation. No screaming. Instead, I opened my laptop and created a new spreadsheet. I named it Project Exit. For the last 6 months, I have been building what I call a shadow ledger. It became a game, a way to survive the suffocation of living with a liar. Every time Jason belittled my business, I transferred $500 from our joint checking into a high-yield trust he didn't know existed. I called it the asshole tax. When he spent $1,200 on a networking dinner that was actually a date with Kayla, I moved $1,200 of my own earnings into the trust. When he made a joke at a dinner party about how I play house for a living, I moved $5,000. Day by day, dollar by dollar, I siphoned my financial worth out of his reach. I wasn't hiding money that belonged to us. I was protecting the money that belonged to me. By this morning, that shadow ledger held the bulk of my liquid capital. The $68,000 he stole today? That wasn't my life savings. That was the bait. I knew Jason. I knew he was greedy, and I knew he was lazy. I knew that if I left a precise amount of money in the joint account, enough to look like a treasure chest, but not enough to trigger a federal audit, he wouldn't be able to resist taking it on his way out, and I needed him to take it. Because adultery is just a civil dispute in divorce court. But theft? Theft is leverage. By taking that money, he walked right into the trap I had been setting since November. He thought he was robbing me blind. In reality, he was signing his own confession. So no, I didn't cry when I got his text. You don't cry when the rat finally snaps the trap. You just check the mechanism, and you wait for the squeal. 7 hours later, my phone rang. The screen lit up with Jason's name. I was in my studio, surrounded by silent, beautiful things, swatches of Italian leather, samples of quartz. The contrast between my sanctuary and the chaos I knew was happening on the other end of the line was delicious. The first call went straight to voicemail. While he panicked, I poured a glass of sparkling water and adjusted the mood lighting in the office. It rang again. This time, I picked up. I didn't say hello. I just pressed the phone to my ear and waited. "Eleanor, pick up the damn phone!" Jason's voice was high, tight, vibrating with the specific panic of a man who has just been publicly embarrassed. In the background, I could hear the distinct hum of an airport terminal announcements in Arabic, luggage wheels rolling, the murmur of 1,000 travelers. "I'm here, Jason," I said. My voice was flat, bored. "The cards aren't working," he shouted. "None of them. I'm at the rental car counter. The Visa was declined. The Amex was declined. I tried to use the HELOC card for the deposit, and the guy looked at me like I was a criminal. He cut the card. Eleanor, he literally cut the plastic." "That sounds inconvenient," I said. "Inconvenient? I'm stranded. I have investors meeting me at the Burj in 2 hours. I can't even pay for the cab to get there." "Fix it. Call the bank. Tell them it's a mistake." "I can't do that, Jason." "Why the hell not?" "Because it wasn't a mistake." There was a silence on the line. A long, heavy silence where the reality of his situation tried to penetrate the fortress of his ego. "What did you do?" he whispered. "I protected my assets," I said. "You stole $68,000 this morning. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Or did you think I would just let you keep it as a parting gift?" "That's our money," he screamed. "That's marriage money. That was renovation money." "I'm going to sue you," he spat. "I'm going to take half of that stupid design shop. I'm going to—" I hung up. I blocked his number. 3 minutes later, my phone rang again. This time it was his mother. Of course. The flying monkeys were being deployed. "Eleanor," she screeched before I could even say hello. "My son is stranded in a foreign country. He says you cut him off. How could you be so cruel? He's frightened. He has no place to sleep." I took a breath. This was the moment where the old Eleanor would have defended herself. I would have explained about the affair, the theft, the lies. I would have begged for her understanding, but I wasn't that woman anymore. I was a gray rock, uninteresting, unmovable, unresponsive. I said. "Is that all you have to say?" she demanded. "He is your husband." "Not for long," I said. "You are vindictive. You are cold. I always knew you were too focused on that business to be a good wife. You drove him to this." "I see," I said. "He needs money. Eleanor, send him money right now or I will tell everyone what you've done." "Okay," I said. "Okay? Does that mean you're sending it?" "No," I said. "It means I'm hanging up now. Don't you dare." Click. I didn't just hang up. I powered the phone down completely. I tossed it onto the sofa cushion. The silence that filled the room wasn't empty. It was heavy with power. For years, I had managed their emotions, soothed their egos, fixed their messes. Today, I let them sit in the mess they made. Jason was in Dubai with no money, a girlfriend who was probably realizing her sugar daddy was broke, and a mother who couldn't save him. I walked over to my desk and opened my laptop. I had one more email to send. It was to my lawyer, attached with a file labeled "Dissolution of Marriage." Subject line: "Proceed immediately." Jason came back 48 hours later. He didn't return to the house he couldn't get in. I had changed the locks and the alarm codes the hour his flight took off. He ended up in his mother's guest room, surrounded by his high school trophies and the distinct smell of failure. But desperation makes people bold. 2 days after he landed, I received a letter from a lawyer he had hired on retainer, probably using the last of his personal credit. The letter was a masterpiece of delusion. It demanded spousal support. It demanded reinstatement to the marital home. And, most offensively, it demanded 50% ownership of Alara Interiors. The claim was that his emotional support and financial guidance were instrumental in building my company. I read the letter in my lawyer Julia's office. I didn't get angry. I looked at Julia, and she looked at me, and we shared the quiet smile of two women holding a royal flush. "He wants to play hardball," Julia said, smoothing a document on her desk. "So let's play." During the discovery phase, the legal process where both sides have to show their cards, Julia had gone through the bank records with a forensic comb. She found something Jason had buried deep in the paperwork pile. It was a loan application submitted to the bank 3 days before his trip. It was a request to increase our home equity line of credit from $200,000 to $350,000. The application was approved. It had both our signatures at the bottom. There was just one problem. I hadn't signed it. Julia slid the paper across the mahogany desk. "Look at the E in Eleanor," she said. "You loop your E's. This one is jagged. It's a trace job." I ran my finger over the ink. Jason had forged my signature on a bank document to secure more debt against my house to fund his affair. In divorce court, adultery is a misdemeanor of the heart. But bank fraud? Forgery? That is a felony. That is federal prison time. "We have him," Julia said. "This isn't just leverage, Eleanor. This is a guillotine." But I wasn't done. I wanted the blade to drop on his career, too. In his demand letter, Jason had included a sob story about lost wages. He claimed that my freezing of the assets had caused him to miss a critical investment meeting in Dubai with a Mr. Arthur Henderson, costing him a potential 6-figure commission. He was trying to blame me for his professional failure. I laughed out loud. "What?" she asked. "Arthur Henderson," I said. "He went to Dubai to pitch Arthur Henderson?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because Arthur Henderson is the husband of Mrs. Beatrix Henderson. My biggest client. The woman whose living room I just redesigned. The woman I had dinner with the night before Jason left." Jason had flown across the world to pitch a man whose wife was currently raving about my work. He had no idea. "Julia," I said, leaning back in my chair. "I don't just want to countersue. I want to draft a response that explains exactly why Mr. Henderson declined that meeting, and I want to attach the forgery evidence." Jason thought he was fighting for half of my business. He didn't realize he was fighting to stay out of handcuffs. The trap wasn't just snapped shut. I was about to weld it closed. The arbitration room smelled like lemon polish and expensive fear. Jason was already there when I walked in. He was wearing his closer suit, the navy pinstripe one I bought him for our 10th anniversary. It looked a little tight around the middle now. Beside him sat his lawyer, a man who looked like he billed by the sigh. Jason smirked when he saw me. He actually smirked. He tapped his pen on the table, projecting confidence he couldn't possibly afford. "Eleanor," he said, nodding like we were old colleagues. "Ready to settle this, so we can all move on?" I didn't answer. I sat down next to Julia. I placed my phone on the table, screen down. "We are prepared to offer a 50-50 split of the marital assets," Jason's lawyer began, shuffling papers. "Including the current valuation of Alara Interiors. My client is willing to waive spousal support in exchange for a lump sum buyout of the business equity." I watched Jason. He was preening. He really believed he was going to walk out of here with a check for $500,000. Julia cleared her throat. She didn't open her briefcase. She simply slid a single, thin, black folder across the polished table. "We have a counter offer," Julia said. Jason's lawyer picked up the folder. He opened it. I saw his eyes scan the first page, then the second. His posture changed instantly. He stiffened. The boredom vanished, replaced by the sharp alert of a man realizing he has stepped on a landmine. "What is this?" Jason asked, reaching for the folder. "That," I said, speaking for the first time, "is a forensic handwriting analysis confirming that the signature on the HELOC expansion application is a forgery." "That is a federal crime, Jason. Bank fraud carries a sentence of up to 30 years. Jason's face went pale. The smirk dissolved into something wet and terrified. That's a mistake," he stammered. I had permission. Implied permission. And underneath that, I continued, is an email chain. He lifted the second page. It was a printout from Mr. Arthur Henderson, addressed to the VP of Sales at Jason's company. To whom it may concern, please be advised that I am rescinding all current and future contracts with your firm. I recently learned that your director, Jason Vance, attempted to fund a business trip to pitch me using stolen marital funds and forged documents. I do not do business with men who lack basic integrity. Consider this formal notice. Jason read the email. His hands started to shake. The paper rattled against the table, a dry, dead sound. You got me fired, he whispered. You got me fired? No, Jason, I said. You got yourself fired. I just made sure the right people knew why. The room was silent. His lawyer closed the folder and pushed it back toward us. He looked at Jason with pure disgust. I can't defend this, he muttered. You didn't tell me about the forgery. Here is our offer, Julia said, her voice cutting through the air like a guillotine blade. You sign the quitclaim deed on the house today. You waive all claims to Elara Interiors and any future earnings. You assume 100% of the debt you accrued. In exchange, Eleanor agrees not to hand that folder to the FBI. Jason looked at me. His eyes were red, watery, pleading. The arrogance was gone. He looked small. He looked like the child he had always been. Eleanor, please, he begged. I have nothing. If I sign this, I have nothing. You have your freedom, I said, which is more than you deserve. He stared at the pen. His hand trembled as he picked it up. He signed the house deed. He signed the waiver. He signed away his claim to my life's work. When he finished, he slumped back in his chair, defeated. I stood up. I smoothed my skirt. I didn't look back at him. I walked to the door, opened it, and turned just slightly. Good luck in Miami, Jason, I said, or wherever you end up. I walked out into the hallway, and for the first time in 6 months, I took a full, deep breath. The air tasted like victory. 6 months have passed since I walked out of that boardroom. I'm standing in my living room. It looks different now. The first thing I did after the deed was recorded in my name was hire a painter. We covered up the corporate beige walls Jason insisted on. He said it improved resale value and painted them a deep, rich emerald green. I replaced the leather recliner he loved with a velvet chaise lounge. The house doesn't feel empty. It feels exhaled. It feels like it's finally holding its breath. I don't hear from Jason anymore. Through the grapevine, mostly his mother's desperate Facebook posts, I know where he is. He's living in his childhood bedroom in her basement. He lost the condo, the car, and the status he worshipped. He's working an entry-level sales job, cold calling people to sell insurance. And Kayla? She didn't stick around for the basement era. She left him 3 weeks after the Dubai disaster. Apparently, she's dating a spin instructor now, someone her own age, someone with a credit card that actually works. I opened my laptop this morning to pay the contractors. I clicked on the trust account, the one I had hidden, the one that saved me. For months, the label on that account read, "Asshole Tax." It was a shield, a weapon, a scorecard of every insult I had endured. But looking at it today, the name felt wrong. I didn't need a shield anymore. I didn't need to define my wealth by his failures. I clicked Edit Name. I backspaced over Asshole Tax. I typed, "The Expansion Fund." I hit Enter. That money, the money he tried to steal, the money I protected, is now the down payment on the lease for Elara Interiors' second location. It's a beautiful industrial space downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows. I'm signing the lease tomorrow. I used to think my role in life was to be the fixer, to smooth over rough edges, to balance the books, to keep the structure standing while someone else took a sledgehammer to the foundation. I thought love was about enduring the demolition. I was wrong. I picked up my drafting pencil and looked at the blueprints for the new studio spread out on my desk. Clean lines, strong foundations, no hidden cracks. Jason thought he could destroy me with a text message. He thought he could bulldoze my life and build a playground for himself on the rubble. But he forgot who he was married to. He was just a tenant. I was the architect, and this time, I'm building something that no one can ever take away from me. If you've ever had to be the smart one while someone else played the victim, leave a muscle in the comments. And if you want the exact checklist I used to separate my finances before he even knew I was leaving, check the link in my bio.